Okay, good morning, everyone. So welcome to today's webinar, and we have Commonwealth Scholar Gabriel from Durham University joining us here. So I will start by taking the CSE question. So Gabriel, you just like share with us ideas how you answered the question that won you the Commonwealth Scholarship. So we believe that with your insights, you're able to help those who are still struggling to.
Okay.
So we start with the development impact question, which says that how your proposed study relates to development issues at the global, national, and local level, and then the development issue connected to your choosing CSE team and the wider sector, which is 200 words. Gabriel, how did you answer that question?
Okay, when it comes to development impact and how it relates to the wider world, forgive me if I speak from the perspective of my own study, my own course of study rather. I was looking at flooding, and the one thing I would advise everyone is don't just think out of the blue. There is always an issue going on around you. Take for instance, maybe you are in a location that that is bedeviled by flooding and the likes. Of course, we all know that flooding is an issue in our local environment, even statewide or national level, even globally. You can see that flooding is a national issue. So what I did is that I tried to relate what has been going on with respect to global warming and everything, and propose a solution to it. So what CSE is looking at is they just want to see that you have an idea of what you want to study or the kind of impact you want to make in your environment. So you can approach it from that angle. I always tell people that you do it from a little to the whole. That is, try to connect your response together. Take it from the local level at first, build it up to the state level, then you cannot connect it to the wider world. Don't just answer this question with a disjointed approach. Let people see, let the CSE board see that, okay, these applicants have taken it from the little. You could see that there's a flow. So that is my own little advice on how to go about it.
Okay, thank you so much, Gabriel, for that. And we'll be joined by Ademola, who is studying at Liverpool University, studying MSc Disability Studies. Actually, I brought Demola here because Demola is a master's scholar. So the thing with the Commonwealth Scholarship, they have similar questions, just some slight difference in the question. So Demola, we also talk about like how he was able to answer his own question and then give also insight about those who are considering applying for the Commonwealth Masters Scholar. So Demola, we're just discussing about the first question that has to do with development impact. So how did you answer that question on how your proposed study related to development issue at the global, national level, local level, and then development issue connected to your choosing CSE team and the wider sector?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Is this okay enough? Like, I'm not using my computer, so I have to use my phone.
Yeah, it's okay, Demola.
I'm glad to be in this midst. So as regards the question, okay, first off, I'd like to mention that, like you rightly mentioned, the Commonwealth Scholarship, like the General Scholarship, is actually very similar to the shared scholarship. So whatever I'm going to be saying here today will also be applied to these very Commonwealth shared scholarship. The only difference is just the universities. While for Commonwealth shared scholarship, you submit just one application to a particular university, like you're going to choose a particular university and submit the application. For the Commonwealth Masters Scholarship, you choose 3 different universities. So apart from that, every other question every other question in both the Commonwealth Shared and General Scholarship and the General Master Scholarship are the same. So for the number one question, which is, I think the development impact something. Sorry, I don't have the questions here with me. Yeah, thing is, the first time I applied for this Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, I made a terrible mistake in that number one question, because you know how these scholarship questions can be now. They are like 3-4 questions in just one paragraph or just one this thing. So sometimes you just have to break them down to understand what answer you're going to give. So the first time I applied, there was like in 4, I don't know, does anyone here have the question there?
Yes, I have the question. So the question is, development, here a proposed study relates to development issue at global, national, and local level. And then the development issues connected to your choosing CSE team and the wider sector.
I was even talking about the parent question, like the first one, but it's okay. How the development, sorry, the first one again.
Development impact connected, development issues at the global, national, and local level.
Yeah, so before you can apply for these scholarships, most of them, they're looking for someone who has actually done something, who has interest in making the world a better place. So you have to have something you're going to, okay, why they want to know why you want to study this particular course. So they will expect you that you mention some things, some problems you've actually recognized yourself, and how studying your course is going to, be a kind of solution to those problems. So now, when you're talking about global, national, local level, they're talking about, the challenges we face in the world generally. There are so many challenges. It all depends on the CSE development theme you're working with, or you. So you just take it from what is happening around you in your community. As a matter of fact, what is happening in your community is actually happening in the national level, in the country as a whole, and it's happening globally as well. So it's actually not just about your community now, but they expect that you talk about something that is immediate to you, the challenge that is immediate to you that you've noticed. Then you take it to the national level, how the same thing is happening in the country as a whole. Then of course you're expected to make some research when you're applying for all the scholarships. So you check what's like the effect of that same challenge or that same problem in the world at large. So you just have to narrow it down that way. You can start from the local, of course. The word count can be challenging as well. So you just have to be concise in whatever answer you're going to be given. And also try as much as possible, like I mentioned, the CSC development team you've chosen, try as much as possible to release whatever you're going to be writing, the challenge. Try as much as possible to make it correlate with the development, the CSC development theme you've chosen. Like I always advise people, sometimes you have the skills, you have the zeal, you have everything, but you are not a very good writer. So it's actually best that you draft whatever you have in mind, whatever you think you want to say, just draft it and give it to someone to help edit or to perfect whatever you've written. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Demoka, for your answers. So we'll now go to the next question. So Gabriel, listen to the next question. So the next question is saying that, how do you intend to apply your new skills and qualification when you return home? And I think this can be challenging because the word count is just 100 words. So what strategy did you use to answer this question?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Gabriel, we can hear you.
Okay, I kind of like, before I continue, I kind of like what Demola said. You can have a very beautiful idea, and because you did not draft your point down, then you miss it. it is always advisable that you put it in a bullet format then before you continue your write-up. Just to answer your question, how you tend to implement what you've studied back home. Let's take for instance, you are an applicant that is that wants to study, let's say, MA gender and gender and development. There's a course like that. You've noticed that in some parts of your country, the number of students, number of female girl child in school is kind of very, very less than less than the male folks. What I always advise is that you can tell them you want to set up an NGO that will look into this, that will empower the girl child to go to school. Of course, we all know that the world is moving towards gender equality and the likes. And if you are going to study MA gender and development, your focus definitely is going to be making sure that the number of girl child that is in school, that goes to school is increased. That is one of the ways to go about it. Also, if you want to go for environmental courses in the case of assessing risk and the likes, you can tell them that you are going to set up an agency that is looking at risk assessment and management. And your aim of setting up that agency is what? To reduce risk in the world in terms of environmental hazards. So basically, the way I look at it is they are just looking at how you give back to the community, how you give back to the society. And you can also tell them, although it's kind of very, 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 because the word count is 100, it's just 100 words. So you just have to, hit the nail on the head and move on. You don't have to say long stories. I'm going to set up an NGA. I'm going to partner the state government or local government in my area and just tell them this is what you want to achieve. And you hope that after setting up these agencies or these NGOs, things get better. That's the way I approached it.
Okay, thank you, Gabriel. Demola, how did you answer that question? How do you apply your new skills and qualifications when you return back home?
Okay. I think I was supposed to actually give examples in the first question, but we can always come back to that later. That's if anyone has a question. For this very one, what Gabriel mentioned now, for instance, the gender, gender development. So I'm thinking, maybe creating an NGO or something is actually cool. But something about this scholarship is that most of the questions, don't let me say most, some of the questions are actually asking, they want the same answer. This scholarship thing can be very tricky because most times they are expecting you, they just want to check your consistency, like how you are consistent with your answer. While the questions might look a bit different from one another, some are actually almost the same thing. And they will expect you to keep, repeating what you've answered somewhere. For instance, this very particular question, which only wants under 100 words. When you go down in this scholarship application, you still see similar questions. Like while you're studying the course, what do you intend to, 5 years career goal or something, long-term goal and all. So for this particular question, I would advise anyone applying to write very shortly. Like maybe you intend to work. Me personally, I feel when you just finish your master's in the UK, for instance, well, the way I think anyway, I don't think I would have had the money or the resources to, immediately set up, an NGO, which of course can be capital intensive because all these things require. So you might want to see a little. While you are not going to be lying outright when you are applying for this scholarship, you can actually just embellish your answers. You can actually just add small, Maggi and salt to make it more, more enjoyable to read, or I don't know how to put it. So you can just mention that you intend to, maybe when you get to your own country, there's an NGO or there's a government parastatal that you'd want to work with. And then from there, you would like to create your own NGO. And from there, you like to, kind of promote or advocate for this one, that one. But you have to make it very short because the word count is actually very short. So you have to just make it like one sentence each. Then when you get down, like where they're asking you for, career impact, what you want to do when you get home, when you get to your home country, then you can start, buttressing those points, fleshing them out and all. So for me, I really can't remember what I answered. Because of this webinar, I actually checked my scholarship essays, but this particular one, I think I just talked about, me working with one college to promote inclusion, disability inclusion, and inclusive education in Nigeria. It was just very short, like 150. So there's really not much you could say there. So that's it. Thank you. I don't know if I answered the question.
Yeah, you did. Thank you so much, Demola, for your answer. So Gabriel, we'll go to the next question, which is, what do you expect will change in development terms following your studies, including, so the A part of that question is in 3 parts. And then the A part is the outcome that you aim to achieve, the time frame for the implementations, and who the beneficiaries will be. I hope you heard that.
Please come again.
Okay, so the third question is, which is, what do you expect will change in development terms following your studies, including the A part is the outcomes that you aim to achieve, the B part is the time frame for their implementation, and then the C part is who the beneficiaries would be, and that's a 250 word count. How did you answer yours?
Sorry, I'm coming. Just a minute. Trying to get the questions, the outcome you aim to achieve.
Yeah, that's the third part of the CSC.
Okay. This is how I, answered this particular question. Like Demola said, one have to be consistent. I think before now I made mention of setting up having a risk assessment management in assessing risk, and I made mention of having an NGO too. That's if you are looking at gender equality issues. Myself, my course of study is MSc risk. So of course, what I said before, I said that when I come back to my country, Nigeria, I plan to implement a risk assessment methodology in my own region. That's the Niger Delta, where I come from. And of course, like I quite agree with Demola, who said setting up these agencies is capital intensive. I quite agree with you. Of course, that's where you now use wisdom, in the sense that you can tell them that that you can be financially challenged in terms of setting up this area, but you plan to partner with other maybe international agencies. There are a lot of them: United Nations Environmental Program, the World Health Organization. If you are looking at health, and if you are looking at children, you are talking about UNICEF and the likes. But I said I want to partner with the Niger Delta Development Commission. And the whole essence of this, why I said I want to create a risk assessment methodology, is just to look at the response to environmental emergencies. We can all agree that there have been a lot of oil spillage in the Niger Delta. So the reason I decided to create up this risk assessment methodology is just to assess risk. Of course, the whole essence is just to save lives. And when they asked me what I expect to change, I told them that what the outcome, what I want to achieve is to save lives, so that you don't have people living in a hazard or risk-prone environment. Then the time frame for the implementation, I want to tell people that you must be realistic. You don't just tell the CSC team that, okay, once you come back to Nigeria, immediately you just expect things to change immediately. It's not true. It's not true. We all know that there can be logistics issue, there can be political issue, there can be social issue also with how you want to implement it, and there can be cultural issues too. So what I want to advise people to tell them that the time frame that you are looking at, let's say between 1 to 3 years, which is, of course, it is reasonable, considering all the consultations you have to go through and the likes. Then for the beneficiaries, one thing I must advise for beneficiaries is that, personally speaking, I don't know about others, the way people approach it. Personally speaking, I feel that your beneficiaries should be the people in your immediate environment at first, because that is your local environment. You don't want to say that what I mean your local environment. I don't mean your hometown now. I mean your place of residence, because that is where people know you. That is where people see you, and that is where probably you undertake most of your daily activities. So I feel that your beneficiaries, what you are looking at to implement, the beneficiaries should be the people in your local environment. Then you can extend it. You can tell them that you have the plan to extend it, state-wise, to the whole state, to the region. Then, if time permits, or if you can tell them that if your program is very, very successful, that you aim to extend it to the national level. So if there's any other thing I remember, I can always add it. This is how I approach it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel, for that. So I agree totally with you, some things you said, but then it also depends on the area that someone is working on. Maybe someone might not be particularly in their own region, but maybe working in a particular field. So it's not necessary you have to say, hey, I must work with my neighbors in this community. Or Demola, how did you answer this particular question?
Okay, so yeah, this question is just like a follow-up of the previous one, which asked how you intend to apply your skills like after your study. So now you're talking about the outcome. Now that you've applied those skills, the things you've learned during your study, so what do you think will be the outcome? So they're talking about impact here. So yeah, for me now, I have this thing here. I'm trying to go through my exact answer, which so the outcome will be, for instance, I said, because I'll be studying disability studies in the UK, now when I get to Nigeria, I'll be working with a tertiary institution where I'm going to develop innovative templates for persons with disabilities to study. One, I also mentioned that I will be able to conduct research, to help foster development, like especially in the area of education and inclusive, in the area of inclusive education and disability inclusion for persons with disability, like students with disability. And I also mentioned that I'm going to extend this to, tertiary institutions like higher institutions, that's universities and polytechnics all over Nigeria. So the outcome will not be that disabled people, they will have access to inclusive education, like they will have access to inclusive education, like education is going to be mainstream. So you as a disabled person, for instance, if you want to go to a school, you don't have to go to a particular school in Nigeria. Like education is going to be accessible to you in anywhere you want it. So that's what I wrote as my outcome. Like that's going to be the outcome, like the impact your project is going to make. And talking about the time frame, like Gabriel mentioned, 1 to 3 years. It all depends on what you said you'll be doing anyway. But whatever time frame you're going to be given, make sure it's reasonable, it's realistic. You don't say I'm going to change the world. Like when you get to Nigeria, your home country, for instance, you're going to do this, do that, and you give 6 months. You're trying to impress that, see, within this short period, I'm going to do all this. You have to be realistic in what you're going to be writing. So for me, I said within the next 3 to 5 years, I'm going to achieve this. That I will, work with, sorry, hold on. That I'll work with, stakeholders in education, the federal government, to design targeted empowerment programs for disabled persons, which will reduce the level of poverty, which is common in the disabled community, anyone, which is actually common with disabled persons in Nigeria. And, talking about what was the last part of the question? Are we going to benefit? Of course, the primary beneficiaries will be disabled persons themselves, because the quality of their lives is going to be improved. Like, eradicating poverty, even if we are not going to eradicate poverty like completely, it's going to, improve the quality of their life. Like poverty won't be so, rampant in this disabled community like it is currently in Nigeria. And also, I mentioned that the federal government themselves are going to benefit from it, because there'll be improved, workforce. Like there'll be, how am I going to put it? Sorry, let me quickly access that here. That there will be improved, like disabled persons will contribute to the workforce in the country, which is going to which is going to enable them contribute to nation building. So now, yeah. So those are those who would benefit from it. The disabled people themselves, the federal government, because they're going to leverage on the improved workforce in the disabled community, so that disabled persons themselves can contribute to nation building. And when you look at it, if you have enough space, you could actually just put so many other things. Those will benefit their immediate environment and whatever. So I want Gabriel mentioned the other time about those who will benefit, particularly like you mentioned yourself. Well, it all depends on where you are, where you're working. If, for instance, you're working with the federal government or an NGO, an international NGO, you don't expect that those who will benefit first is going to be your community, like where you came from. It could be anyone. But if, for instance, you return to your home country and you find yourself working in your local community to do this or to do that, yeah, might be worth it to mention that those who benefit will be who will benefit, the primary beneficiaries will be your immediate community. But it all depends, like I said. So, yeah.
Okay, Demola, just the follow-up question that says how the impact of your work could be best measured. So what did you say there?
Okay, yeah, so for me, how is going to be measured? I said because I have a disability myself. Can you hear me right? Okay, because I have a disability myself, I mentioned that I am a member of the national, let me see the name of, as a matter of fact, I'm actually not an active member, but when you're applying for these scholarships, you just have to be realistic with each other. There are some things, like I said, you don't have, it doesn't even, it's not advisable that you lie when you're applying for these scholarships, but you could actually just, embellish your answer a little. Because, for instance, I don't know what I could have answered here if I didn't mention that I belong to the national body of disabled persons in Nigeria. So I mentioned that as a member, sorry, I'm trying to, oh, sorry, I failed to mention something in the previous question where we said the outcome, right? The outcome, who is going to, who will be the beneficiaries? Sorry that I'm dragging us back, but I think it's actually very good to mention numbers when you're writing all these scholarships. Who's going to be the beneficiaries? For instance, I wrote that over 19 million disabled persons in Nigeria. So I actually accessed that online. So like when you mention figures, who would benefit from what you're doing? I think figures are actually very important as well. They want to know the number of persons who will be impacted by your project. So when, for instance, you're talking about girls be children out of school, I don't know, maybe what you're going to be studying, what you're proposing to study in the UK is about gender development or whatever. And for instance, your beneficiaries will be girls or women or ladies. It might be prudent to mention the number. According, you're going to find the statistics online. It might be prudent to mention the number. Maybe 10 million out of school children in Nigeria, 20 million. Like, these figures are actually very important. So sorry, I had to quickly mention that. So for the question of how you intend to measure the impact of your work, I said as a member of the joint national association for persons with disability, which is an umbrella of persons with disabilities in Nigeria, that I will regularly evaluate the impact of my project, by assessing the level of inclusive education and improved access to opportunities that the association members have enjoyed since I started my project. I also mentioned that I'm going to be conducting maybe random interviews and structured interviews too, like survey and all, to make sure like my project is creating the right impacts. Then I also mentioned that an increase in the number of disabled students who are ICT literate. So if I notice an increase, I'll know that, okay, my project is, doing the right thing. Improved academic learning and academic learning by disabled students. Just random stuff. I think the word count is 125. It all depends on me. I was able to pin down on this because I have a disability, and they will expect that you are a member of a disability community or something in Nigeria. So I was able to write that. I don't know what others have done in this regard. I don't know, maybe they are talking about survey, conducting structured interviews, be survey or something. I don't know if maybe Gabriel will be able to help, or even you, Precious.
Thank you, Demola, for that answer. I think you've done justice to the question. So before we move to the next one, which Gabriel will answer, I just want to say something about numbers. Yeah, numbers are good. I think that can really fit more in the first part to make a case for your problem statement. And then again, why I will not, because I myself, I need to add numbers to this part of the question. Why you don't want to play with numbers? Because I think even though you have like this body of this total number of people with this issue, your intervention might not reach everybody. So you just say, okay, people in this category, you can leave it there to say of so age, maybe age bracket this and this, we most benefit from it, just to like streamline it a bit. But it depends on how you want to answer yours too. So I'll go to the next one, which Gabriel is about the proposed study in the UK question. And that place is asking that you should provide a short outline of your proposed study / research. This should be written for an audience that does not have any prior knowledge of the subject and must not be overly technical. So any abbreviation or specialist terms must be explained. And this is the study outline that has 125 words. So Gabriel, how did you answer this question?
Okay, before going to this, before answering this question, I think I need to put in my ideas towards the measurement of your impact. I think I didn't really answer that. And to be honest, everybody have the way they approach their questions, and that is, I think that's what makes a scholarship application beautiful, because you can see that there are different dimensions to how you answer question depending on how best you want to approach it. Personally, I think numbers are fine, but there's a caveat. There's a caveat in the sense that you have to be careful with numbers too, because if you want to measurement is I answer this question is that I'm going to take a comparative analysis of data published by the Federal Bureau of Statistics on the impact of how oil spillage have affected the community before my study and a few years after my study. That I want to see. Hopefully, I'm going to see that the number of people affected is going to be reduced. I feel when you make reference to those statistics, it gives your essay a kind of backing, because they know that, okay, you are quoting an agency, you are quoting the body, you are quoting an NGO and the likes. So while I said you have to be careful too, you want to measure your impact. Take for instance, I was privy to someone's application essays, and she was looking at improving the number of girl child that goes to school, and in her essay I could see that in the whole of the state that the state she's looking at, the number of girl child outside of school was like I think 1.9 million in our figures. I'm quoting our figures now, 1.9 million. And she's not, the whole of the states, don't forget, a state has backing from the federal government, from international agencies, international bodies, international NGOs, stakeholders here, well-wishers and the likes. And she is now saying that in just a few years, let's say in less than 3 years or thereabouts, that our own NGO is going to take about 1 million students, 1 million girl child to school. And I ask her how. If a state with the whole budget, billions of naira, is just having 1.9 million, how is your agency going to do it? Probably you are just starting the agency and you are saying that you're going to take 1 million girl child to school. This is wrong. This is exaggeration. And this, if I'm that body, I might just end up disqualifying you, because I know you are lying outrightly. So like Demola used to say, if you want to do something, you want to put salt and maggi, please be reasonable. These people are not foolish. They are psychologists, they are technicians, technicians and everything. They know this game very well. They have been these bodies, these scholarships have been for decades. So they have seen different varieties of what scholarship. Be careful. Also, if you want to do things, don't just speak vaguely. Don't speak vaguely in the sense that in that particular essay too, she was saying, I'm going to work in Kano State. I'm going to work in Kano State. I'm going to work in Kano State. And I was like, I'm looking at your essay. You have been talking about Kano State since the beginning of this essay, since the very first development impact essay till now, and I've not seen how Kano State relates to you whatsoever. You are not telling me it's your hometown, it's your home state. You're not telling me that you once stayed in Kano State. You're not telling me that you served in Kano State. You're not telling me that this is what you just don't speak vaguely. You don't just say, I want to work somewhere because I feel like working there. Let these people know the reason why you are working there is because, okay, while I traveled there, I discovered this. The reason why I want to work in that state is because while it has been on record that over the last 10 years, they have been experiencing this challenge. So don't just speak vaguely, I want to work here because I feel like working. So back to the question, the proposed study. This question is quite easy. I will say it's easy in the sense that myself, I always try to work smart and not work hard. I will try to work smart because every course you want to study, in the UK, of course, if you go to the school website, you will see what that course is all about. Every course. Okay, let me not say every course. I don't want to, exaggerate. I don't want to, be, quoted wrongly. But I want to tell you that most courses, in fact, majority of the courses have everything you want to know about that course on their website. So what I just did is that, okay, I went to the website, MSc Risk. What is MSc Risk all about? They told me, okay, it's about this, it's about this, about this. I just quickly took out a draft out of it. The bulk of it was from the school website. Then I just related it to just the challenges I'm facing, which is my major challenge then was what about flooding. So just look at to the school website, look at to the course. The course description is there. Look at to it, relate it a little, or rather relate it to to the challenge you are having, and that settles the course of study or course outline. That's thereabouts. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Gabriel, for that. Just to add to what Gabriel said, this thing is already in the website, but be very careful here. Don't go and copy what you see in the website.
I didn't say copy and paste. No. I didn't say copy and paste. I say take a draft. Take a draft out of it. Link it with what you are facing in your own environment, and that is it. Don't just copy and paste, please. Always, I wouldn't know if they are using plagiarism checker. You don't want a situation whereby your essays is flagged for plagiarism, and these guys don't take a plagiarism. They don't take plagiarism easy. They don't take it for they don't joke with it. I think Precious, Demola, and everybody that have done assessment in the UK here, we agree that there's what they call a similarity index. So if your essays have a lot of similarity index with other essays, wow, it's quite unfortunate. I didn't say that. I only said that please work smart. You don't want to say something. Let's say you are speaking from your own idea. You are speaking from your own idea, and from your own your head, and what you are talking about does not really relate to what even the course is all about. How does it sound? How does it sound? There should be a relationship. There should be a relationship, and the best place to get that relationship of a particular course is what the course of study. The course of study is always there. So just go there, get a draft, paraphrase it, link it up with your environmental challenge or your social challenge or whatever, and you'll be fine.
Thank you so much, Gabriel, for that. So we'll go to the next one. Mr. Demola, that part, which is the sixth question that says that you should provide a detailed plan of your proposed study. So the selection panel will want to understand why you have selected your proposed course and university. And then it says, describe clearly Why have you chosen your proposed course at university, and why do you want to undertake this study in the UK? What is it that you're looking for in a course, and how your choosing course relates to your objectives, and then any dissertation topic that you have in mind. So this is the detailed plan of study, and it's 300 words. I think here they have a lot of words to write. So Demola, how did you answer this question?
Okay, yeah, so thank you. Before I go into that, first, I would like to also add that if you're going to be quoting figures, if you're going to be mentioning figures, it's advisable that you reference where you got the your source at the end of the at the end of that particular essay is actually allowed. You can put a reference, like for instance, where I mentioned 19 million disabled. I got it from Premium Times, which I put the reference at the end of that particular essay. And I think Gabriel mentioned something that I would like to contribute to. Okay, I really can't remember now. Yeah, I really can't remember now. Okay, yeah, so this particular, sorry. This particular question of short outline of your proposed study/research. The first time I applied for this scholarship, that was in 2019 or so. Do you know, I was actually writing about, my dissertation, what I want to do, like the research I want to do, because I saw research there. I was not talking about the overview of the course, which is supposed to be the answer I should give there, right? But I was talking about, the research I want to, I'll research on this one, research on that one. So whoever that is applying for this scholarship should understand that the research there is because where they are taught courses in the UK, they are research, I don't know, maybe the research courses or something. I don't know if that's what they call them. But the Commonwealth Scholarship, I think they fund mostly taught courses. That's where you go to class, you have courseworks, like you attend classes, and at the end you write a dissertation. So they're talking about the overview of the course. And like Gabriel and Precious rightly mentioned, while you might, get the information of that course online on the university website, it will be best to write it in your own words, just paraphrase. And if you're going to be, quoting anything from that website, make sure you add the reference at the end. So yeah, the question now is the detail. The question you asked now, Precious, that's the detailed something about your course, why you chose the course and everything. Yeah, it's actually just I'm trying to access the question here. Is about why you want to study the course. See, like I said in the beginning of this webinar, that most of these questions, they are just almost the same thing, just some little expansion, explanation, and maybe some little, I wouldn't want to call it diversion, but it's basically what you've been writing since morning, but now you have to expand, you have to expatiate, like explain very well. For instance, I said I want to study disability studies because I want to be able to foster the United Nations Development Goal 4, that's includes education for all. I don't know if I got that. Yeah, education for all. Then the mental health and well-being, that's SDG 3. Mental health and well-being. Yeah, mental health, is it mental health and health?
Good health and well-being.
Good health and well-being. And the SDG 10, which is reduced inequality also. So, I try to relate my answers to all these SDGs too. It's actually a very clever thing to do when you're writing all these scholarship essays. As you are relating it to all these SDGs, be relating it to your development, the CSC, the development theme you're working on as well. It's actually a smart move. Now, so I'm talking about, I'm trying to access the here. So I'm here, the particular answer I gave. So I said because I'm growing interest in research, studying disability studies will help me we exposed me to the dynamics of disability across ranges of international context. Just basically what you want to do with your degree. What you want to do with your degree. Now, this is where it gets tricky, because for this part of my own question, because I got a Commonwealth Masters Scholarship, I'm writing about 3 universities, but it doesn't mean, I think for shared scholars, it should be like you have more time, you have more space rather to write about what you want to do. But here, because I'm writing about 3 different universities, I didn't have that. But yeah, then why you want to, yeah, it's basically just what you want to do. Like what you want to do, why you're studying the course and what you intend to do with it when you get home. So I said I want to work with the federal government again. Though I didn't write it exactly the way I wrote it up there. One of the questions you've answered. Well, I was mentioning about working with NGOs, creating awareness, advocacy, and why I want to study it in the UK. Of course, why won't I want to study it in the UK? Like they are, the educational system is top-notch. They are, state-of-the-art research facilities, lecturers, and all. So I want to mention that as well. Which other? I think there are like 2, 3 different questions made in one.
Okay, yeah. Any dissertation topic you have in mind?
Yeah, well, I wrote something here, even though I won't be doing it eventually, but it's actually not very compulsory, but it's good to add it. Just think of something, probably something related to what you've been talking about all the while. Maybe a challenge that you notice in your immediate environment, your community, or your country as a whole. You might say you want to, research on this, research on that. What I wrote here is that I want to I'm going to be conducting a comparative research between the segregated education system and the inclusive education system in both Nigeria and the UK. And now that I'm in the UK, I might not be doing that. There are other things I've actually found out that I might be working on. But, for the moment, you might just see anything that you wish you would want to work on and put it there. So, and why, I think you have to write why you're choosing that same university. I don't know, is that the question there? Please confirm, Precious.
Yeah, I think you can add that there, because it's saying that why do you want to study in the UK? So, I mean, you have to refer to your university.
You have to refer to university. Yeah, so you have to research on your university, check online to see what they are good at. Are they a member of the Russell? What was that? This thing, Russell member of universities or something. Like, we'll just check about your university so that they can know, like those reviewing your essay will know that, oh, you know what you're talking about. You've actually done your assignment. So yeah, that's just it, in my own opinion.
Okay, thank you, Demola, for that response. Just to add to what Demola said. So yeah, again, being specific, if you're talking about your university, look at the lecturers in the course that you're taking. It will be good for you to mention names to say, oh, this particular professor or doctor is working on this area. For them to know that you've actually done your homework and you really want to study in the university, that you are serious. And then find the ones that have similar interests with you to say, Professor, this has similar interests with me in inclusive education. So I believe that if I study at the University of Liverpool Hope, I'm able to gain from his methodology, you understand, and gain from his wealth of experience, which I'll use to come and apply back when I get back home. So you can look at things like that. You can also stand yourself out. If you know that your university as well does research, maybe even in Africa, your country, by the time you start mentioning all these things, they'll be like, this person, we have to give this person this scholarship because this person understands us. Then the issue of why the UK too, you can look about beyond. It's not only the UK that have good education system. I mean, USA is there, Australia is there, Canada is there. So you don't want to also be so vague. You can say maybe if the UK have a strong policy in this line of work, let's say for inclusive education, the UK government have a policy on, it's called maybe inclusive education for all, something. You can say, see, the UK government have developed this policy. So if I study in the UK, I will learn more about this policy and come back home to see how to influence policy. So you have to open your mind and think how you can really relate these questions to that. So we'll go to the next question. And Gabriel, that question is for you to take. It's talking about the career plan. And it's asking that the selection panel will want to understand how your proposed study will assist you in your career plan. So describe the skills that you expect to gain from this scholarship and your career plans once you return home afterwards. So this is objective during the award, and you have 250 words to write. So Gabriel, how did you answer this question?
Hello, the network just went bad in the last few minutes. Can you just repeat again, please?
Okay, so the question is the objective during the award. They want to know why. Describe the skills that you expect to gain from the scholarship and your career plan once you return home. So how did you answer this?
Okay, Demola kept saying all the why that all these questions are linked, and I agree with him 100%. Just be consistent with your answers. You can see that virtually everything we'll be talking about, virtually everything is linked one way or the other. So for the objectives, I just told them that I just want to have a theoretical and practical training for understanding and quantifying the hazard I've been talking about. So of course that's my objective. The reason why I'm going there is just to have a practical knowledge about it, not just to study it in class and everything. So I told them that the whole essence of me going to the UK is just to have this theoretical and practical understanding, practical training of understanding and quantifying risk. And objective also upon my return, like I've been saying all this while, my objective is to create an NGO, of course, to create an NGO, and I plan to partner. I plan to partner with United Nations environmental program. I think that's the arm of United Nations that is concerned with environmental challenges. So those are my objectives. Then as for career plan, well, I want to say this in as much as I don't really I don't really expect everybody to follow through with it anyway, because after getting to the UK, of course, I guess my career plans will also change too. That's is life for you. I always tell people that you should state that you plan to get a PhD, but if you ask me now if I want to get a PhD immediately after this program, I will tell you no. I will tell you no. So your career plans should be a continuation of everything you've been doing. What are your career plans? If you are into lecturing, you are going back to class, to improve the knowledge of your colleagues and the likes because of the wider education you've received. If you are into ministry, your career plans should be to implement what you have learned in the UK. You can tell them that you want to introduce it and making sure that everything you've learned is being implemented. And if you're in the academia, that's when you can ask, okay, I want to go to, I plan to, apply for a PhD and the likes. If you are into the private sector, you can tell them that you hope that you want to propose your career plan is that you want to use what you have learned in the UK also as a form of corporate social responsibility, as like giving back to the society. That's what you plan to do, and have an implementation of all what you have done. It all boils down to your decision of life. Like I said, I've been talking about different sectors. I mentioned academia, the government sector, and the private sector. So your career plans should be, please, your career plan should be should be like more like an implementation of, okay, we have given you this scholarship. You have given you this scholarship. What are you going to do with it? You don't expect a situation whereby, let's say for instance, you because it is quite common. It is quite common in Nigeria where people have a different degree and find themselves in a different sector. In the sense that let's take for instance, I myself, I read geography and regional planning, but before coming to the UK, I was working in the bank. And the sector I'm working in the bank does not really relate to, to environmental, section, because I think bank have, a section that deals with the environment. I've forgotten our own bank name anyway. I don't want to mention names because what I want to say is that, the situation whereby after CSC have given you this scholarship, fully funded, then you are not telling that you want to return back to the bank. To return to the bank in a sector, in a section, in a unit of the bank that doesn't even deal with what I've been saying all this while, that, okay, I want to set up NGO, I want to do environmental studies. So we just, to CSC now, you want to tell them that, okay, we are wasting money on you. You want to turn to the bank and continue your financial, kind of job and the likes. Of course, they won't do that. They won't approve your scholarship. So your career plan should always be like a follow-up of what you have, studied. So that is just my own advice and my own take on it.
Okay, thank you, Gabriel, for that answer. I'll just say something here. So just to be clear, it's not compulsory that what you do during your undergrad is what you want to do during your master's. For me, like, I have a strong science background, but I am studying social science right now. So I was able to tell CSC why I'm switching from my science background to social science background. And ever since I graduated from school, I've never even worked in the area of science. So all my work has been in this social science area. So with everything I've been saying, with evidence, my experience, CSC knows that this one, she is grounded. She has even taken small courses in this area. So if she's switching and she's pursuing a new area of her life, we're able to support her because she's doing this and we want her to do more. So it's not compulsory that you must follow what you do for your undergrad to what you want to do. You should be able to state why you were switching. Like from the beginning, development impact, I stated what happened during school and why I decided to switch. I'm working in this particular kind of area. So if you don't want to do what you do during your undergrad, it's fine for you to switch to another different area. So if Gabriel was really passionate about working in banking, he would have found a spot to say, okay, yes, I have experience in banking already. And then, so now I want to move to maybe fintech or something. So the scholarship, we still give it to him because they see that, okay, even though he did geography, but he has been working in the bank and he wants to go to this area, but he has been working in the bank and he wants to continue, he wants to work around what he did during his undergrad. So just find your way, find your spot, irrespective of whatever you study or what you want to move on. So don't be discouraged about your education background. I don't know what Demola studied for his undergrad, so I will allow him to speak. So Demola, how did you do your objective during the award, your career plan in 5 years, and your long-term career plan? So how did you, I'm just tying all the questions together.
Okay, I think you and I have something, that area, we have something similar, because I read mass communication, my first degree, and now I'm doing disability studies, which of course is totally, I wouldn't say totally, but it's unrelated. They are not related at all. And that's because even though I read mass communication, everything I've done in the media is about, most of the things I've done in the media, the mainstream media, especially radio and all these things, they've been on, advocacy, promoting inclusion and all these things. So I've done that for a long time. And even though I found myself working with the state government as a teacher, as a classroom teacher, I was teaching in a conventional school, a normal school. I was still trying to promote, disability inclusion in that school, trying to make sure that blind students, for instance, will be able to come to that school, irrespective of the fact that it's a conventional school. I was trying to set up resource centers where blind students will be able to, that will enable blind students to thrive, to, come to that kind of school, even though it's a conventional school. So I've done that. I've done different things, but one thing that stands out is that I've actually be more, I've worked more in the disability area. So when I was writing the essay, I was able to talk about the fact that, yeah, I read mass communication for my first degree, but, I've done this about disability, like around disability inclusion. So I want to study disability studies. Yeah, so about the 5-year career, the one Gabriel just spoke about now. Yeah, well, Gabriel is bent is bent on creating an NGO. It's bent on creating an NGO. It's actually not bad that, of course, you're going to leverage on the networks, like people, like, the people you've met, the people like NGOs, other NGOs, international organizations, and all. And yeah, for this scholarship, when you're writing your essays, don't be afraid to mention names. And when I say names, don't mention not the one that I was talking about. Of course, there are some things you don't want to mention. But for instance, yeah, you say you want to collaborate with an international NGO. It would be best to mention the particular international NGO you want to collaborate with. For instance, maybe ECOWAS or all these. I don't know, ECOWAS and NGO. I don't even know. But just mention names. You mentioned something about not being vague the other time, Precious. It's actually a very good thing. You have to be precise. You have to you have to mention directly what you want to do, who you're dealing with, not just talking generally. So for the 5-year, they expect you, that question is about 5-year career impact, a big career goal or something. So these people know that you've been studying. It's not like you've been working in the UK. So when you return to your home country, they expect that you don't really have the resources. You might want to return to where you were working before you travel to the UK, or you find somewhere where you're going to be working, or maybe contributing, volunteering, or whatever. So most of the time, they don't really expect you to have done something so big within the first 2, 3, 4, 5 years of your return. So that's why they have the short-term career goal, which is 5 years. Now, what will you be doing within those 5 years? Of course, you can be working with an NGO, you can be working with the government, you can be working with a private establishment. But while you're doing that, you might be working on something more long-term, something you want to be known with, something you want to create yourself. And that's why the question of the long term is there. So for the long term, for instance, for my own, while I said for the short term, that's your immediate career plan, what you're going to be doing immediately you return to your own country. They don't expect that you'll be able to, create an empire when you return. So I said I'll be working with a college where I'm going to be, conducting research to improve the educational development of disabled people. That's basically what I mentioned in the immediate career goal. But for the long time, I said I would like to create an NGO, just like Gabriel. I would like to create an NGO that will cater to the academic needs of disabled persons, blind persons, especially because I'm blind myself. That is going to cater to the academic needs of blind persons. And that's because while I was in the university, while I was studying, I didn't have access to alternative study materials and all these communication softwares. I didn't have access to them. I struggled to get most of these things. And now that, my long-term goal is that I have an NGO, a foundation that will be able to provide all these, study materials so that the current disabled blind students in tertiary institutions and secondary schools won't have to go through what I went through in the university. So that's my own long term. And I also mentioned that since I have a background in communications, of course, like I said, I studied mass communication in my first degree, and now I have the expertise as a disability expert. Like I'm doing disability studies in the UK currently. That I'll be able to further promote my advocacy, push advocacy, especially in the media. Now I have the knowledge, the expertise, the skills as a disability expert. And of course, I have background in mass communication. So I'll be combining the two to work in the media, to further, educate and enlighten people, give people insight into the world of people with disabilities. So I think that answers that.
Thank you so much, Demola, for that. Just to add to what Demola and Gabriel has said, so it's not compulsory that you want to do a PhD. It's not compulsory that you want to also have an NGO, because you will now say, okay, you hear PhD and NGO, you will not just took it to now write your essay. I personally didn't even write anything about PhD, neither starting, although I work within that sector, but I've seen people who have never written about doing PhD or running an NGO. So for instance, in the short-term career plan, so it could be that you're going back to wherever, depending on the kind of course that you have chosen, to start implementing these things that you've learned to improve your organization. So you could talk about like building partnership, with other organizations to implement your development impact. So you don't have to go and, in quotes, go and find a new organization or something. You can collaborate with others to achieve this your goal. Then for me, for my long term, what I said is because I'm studying something that revolves around governance. I said that I was going to be involved in politics, either serving in the House of Rep or being a minister or something. Or you can even say you want to work in the UN. It's like a long-term career goal and plan for you. So don't say because you've heard about PhD or forming an NGO, oh, these people wrote this thing and they want the scholarship, so let me write the same thing. I've always said it, be true to yourself. If you are true to yourself, sell yourself, they'll give you the scholarship irrespective of whatever area you want to go to. You can see that we are all in 3 different areas, thinking different things, writing different essays. So stop saying you're looking for a particular kind of template. Just know how to structure your thoughts and write the essays very well. So we'll go to the next question, Gabriel. And someone is asking here that since you all switched your career path, what experiences did you give in your personal statement? Okay, so yeah, we'll come to the personal statement question now. And he's saying that summarize the ways in which your personal background has encouraged you to want to make an impact in your home country. So you should indicate areas in which you have already contributed, such as having overcome any personal or community barriers to higher education. So in this personal statement section, I think they can write a lot because it's 500 words. So Gabriel, how did you answer this question?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Gabriel.
Okay, this personal statement, I think it is a place where you can really express yourself. And Precious, you'll be talking about be true to yourself, be true to yourself, be true to yourself. I must say that whenever you receive, people's essays, let's say you ask them for their essay and they give it to you, it is not a yardstick that when you follow the essay, that means you get the scholarship, because the person that you are collecting the essay from is speaking from his or her own perspective and how matters relates to him or her. What you should just use this essay is just as a guide, so that it helps you to frame your own essay. And I've come to realize that when if you write your essays as it relates to you personally, most often than not, you tend to get it. I've been there before where I was like, okay, I have a friend, in fact, a classmate that got the CSC scholarship. Oh, Osas, please just help me with your essay. Let me just use it. I didn't get it. But when I just look at it, okay, how did he approach it? Okay, I think wide and I do my own thing, and boom, that's just it. Okay, talking about personal statements and how you are able to experience challenges. I approach this. I think this place was quite easy for me, very, very easy, considering where I'm coming from. I grew up in Ajegule in Lagos. So for those of you who know Ajegule very well, you know that it's a very, very strong place to. I don't want to use the other adjective to qualify it. It's a very, very strong place to be. So it was quite easy for me in the sense that I had to tell them the kind of people you find in Ajegule. I tell them the kind of experiences we had then, and going to school then was more like will I say you have to beat cultural challenges. It's not as if there's no school. There are actually schools, but the kind of mentality people have is that, when you carry your bag and go to school and people are looking like, oh God, what's the meaning of this? Who are you? In that kind of setting. So going to school more like you have to beat some kind of, cultural challenges and the likes. And if you really want to go to a very good school, then that means you are the people that staying in Ajegule that have, is little, let me say you have some resources, so to speak. So it is a quite rough area. So I just had to intimate CSE about the kind of background I once had as I was living, the kind of environment I lived in and the challenges we had then. And funny enough, I've been talking about flooding since the beginning of this webinar. I had a challenge of even flooding, going to school when it rains, because we had to pass through some parts, and those parts, when it rains, it become flooded. So, for you to go to school, you must have this zeal that, okay, today I must go, because just without flooding alone, people turn their back, back home, I'm not going, and people become discouraged. And because of bad influence and the likes, people become discouraged. So it is very, very easy to just relate with it and the likes. And the person that asked a question about experiences, you switching career path and the experiences, what experiences did you give in your personal statement and voluntary experiences? It is quite, it just goes to show that as much as I worked in the bank, I was interested in environmental matters, and I will explain how and why I said so. In my own local environment, in my own residential area, I was part of the executive team, so it's more like a leadership experience now, or voluntary experience now. I was part of the leadership team. Because I worked in the bank, they made me the financial secretary. You can see the way it linked anyway. They made me the financial secretary of the association. But I was part of, that's what they call the environmental team of that association. So I could tell them that as much as I'm a banker, they made me the financial secretary of the association, but I was part of the environmental team, and we were the one that was able to, ameliorate different hazards in the community and assess risks and the like. So it is just link. You don't have to quote something out of the blue. I always tell people, your little experiences, your little wins goes a long way. You don't have to start thinking, oh, I was the one that made 5,000 people to go to school. No. Have you encouraged anybody? Have you encouraged anybody to go to school? Just state it. These guys have seen scholarship, they have seen applications over the years. They just want to see what you've been talking all this while. All the okay, I'm going to set up an NGO, I'm going to work in university. If you're going to work in university, have you gathered children together to say, okay, I want to teach a set of a group of let's say 10 children or 20 children? You can, if you are the type that is into that you want to go into the academia as a long-term career plan, you can tell them that, okay, I have set up a local tutorial center in my hometown. So those are what you didn't collect money. So those are what volunteer experiences. You didn't collect money, but you were able to prepare them for WAEC or NECO or whatever kind of exam. It is more like giving back to society. So that's like your personal experiences that you've had. Sorry, the voluntary experiences you've had. So personal statement is unique. It is unique. Look back and please sound convincing. I'm not saying you should lie. Sound convincing. Why CSE must give you this scholarship? You can state a situation whereby you really do not have the kind of the means to go to school, but somehow some people have been in a situation whereby if they want, when they were going to school, they had to support themselves through school by, you know, they go to school daytime, come back in the evening to do some, you know, some jobs. State it like that, okay, when I was going to school, I go to school in the day, in the evening, I had to support my family and the likes. If you are the kind of people that, you know, if you come from a very, very large family, so to speak, I'm just giving you instances now. If you come from a very, very large family, so to speak, when I mean large, like maybe your parents, your father had a lot of children, and he couldn't really, you know, train everybody in school because of, you know, his resources were not able to match the number of, you know, people that are under him. State it. You just have to state it and let them know that, okay, these were your challenges and you beat all these things to go to school, and that should be okay.
Thank you so much, Gabriel, for doing justice to that question. So Demola, I want to hear your thoughts. How did you write the section on the personal statement?
Okay, so while here Cersei is expecting you to, you know, talk about the challenges you've gone through, probably accessing education or something. While it's not bad to actually, you know, state those challenges, it's actually very advisable that you don't do the pity this thing. My father died and my mother died. Yeah, your father and your mother can die and you were not able to go to school. While it's actually not bad to write about those, it's also advisable that you immediately switch to how you're able to overcome the challenges and rise to, you know, become whatever you are today at the moment you're writing the scholarship. For instance, I wrote there that I lost my sight when I was 16 years old, and because of that, I couldn't go to school again. Now that's a very pathetic story, right? But yeah, I was able to switch, like to transition from that pitiable condition to how, in spite of everything, I was able to return to school. And when I returned to school, I gave it all my best. And although there were no, you know, alternative study materials and assistive technologies to help me, but I was able to, you know, study by means of makeshift materials. Like I was able to find a way to study. And when I did that, in spite of my disability, I graduated with a very good grade from the university. This is the part where you want to talk about how, in spite of the challenges you've gone through, you're able to graduate well from the university. And now there's a section of the question that asks about what you've done, what contributions you've made as regards something, as regards the barrier you yourself faced while, you know, accessing education. So I said when I finished from the university, I was able to, I because of what I've gone through, because of the challenges, I launched an online campaign where, you know, I talked about inclusion, inclusive education, basically some of the challenges I've gone through in the university myself, where I talked about them. And because I kept doing that, a tech startup, Vinsite Technology, reached out to me, and they collaborated with me. And now they are creating digital libraries in schools around Oyo State, Nigeria. So, you know, that's me. I've gone through, you know, a very horrible moment in my life, but I didn't allow that to weigh me down. I was able to, you know, rise from that, and now I've been making impact. So you can basically just talk about that. I also mentioned that now I'm working as a classroom teacher, and because I work with the state government now, I was able to write proposals that some schools in the state be made accessible to blind students, so that blind students won't need to travel miles, like to access just one or two blind schools, blind schools that are, specially designed for blind students. Like a blind student should be able to go to the next street and access education there. It doesn't have to, be you traveling all the way to probably worry or somewhere, because that's where the school you as a blind person could go. I talked about all these things, and yeah, that's basically just it. There are sometimes there are so many things to say, but you just have to pick out the strongest point, the strongest thing, the strongest, point that you feel will, aid your application and put them. And also, I'd like to mention that you can. This is the word count is 500, so you have enough space to write. It's also a good thing if you have anything you've done that you could add the link. You could add the link at the footer of your essay in this particular category. If probably you've done something that, even if it's just a Twitter link, Facebook link, that when they might not even access it as a matter of fact, but you can just put it there so that when they click on it, they will say that, okay, probably when you did this, when you did that, you were able to record it. So it's actually a good thing. It will make your essay look very authentic. It's not compulsory, by the way, but if you have any link to add, like if they want to access anything, probably to corroborate some of the things you mentioned, is actually good. I don't know, are we moving to the next question now when we're talking about volunteerism and
yeah, you can take that question.
Okay, so about that, many of us have done, you're talking about volunteerism and leadership here. So they want to know, many of these scholarships, they're looking for leaders, someone that will be able to, lead a change, change makers that will be able to lead a project or do something, start something. So here, you don't have to be the president of a company or the chairman or something. The little things you've done probably when you were in secondary school, in the university, we count here. For instance, for me, I mentioned that I contested for the public relations officer of my department. Even though I was not the president, I was not the president of the Students Association, right? I was the PRO, but the PRO, I did this, I did that. Those are little things. And also I said, because of, my experience, okay, I also mentioned that I was volunteering. Yeah, they are talking about volunteerism and leadership here. So you might just put the two, you might just, take out the two questions, because sometimes, like I said, most of these questions, there might be 3 questions in just one. So when you're not careful, you don't even answer 1 or 2 of the questions. You are just, concentrating on one. So here they're talking about volunteerism and leadership. I also mentioned that I volunteered at the radio station, like the university radio station, where, I was, talking about some challenges blind and disabled students generally faced in the university. And I was doing all this. I was doing the PRO thing in my department. I was volunteering at the university radio. And because of all my, experience, all the experience I've, garnered, it helped my academics and it helped my studies. And I was able to graduate well with 4.44 CGPA out of 5.0 from the university. So that's me relating what the voluntary position I've, held, and, the PRO, this is actually a volunteer this thing as a matter of fact. But, that was something talking about leadership. And because of that, I was able to, graduate well from the university because the experiences helped me a lot. And after that, I kept advocating for inclusive education, disability inclusion. And because of that, I was selected by the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 2019 as a One Young World Ambassador, which took me to the One Young World Summit in London. So I participated there as a youth, as an ambassador at the One Young World Summit in London. And at the summit, I was able to network with people. And I led a team of disability advocates to one. Okay, now when you're in, occasions like that, you meet different people from different backgrounds. So I said I was able to lead a group of disability advocates to network and collaborate with one organization like that. They call them Citizen Gavu, to make legal services free and accessible to disabled persons in Nigeria. So that was me displaying my leadership ability, right? And there I said, later on, I was selected by another non-profit in the UK, which made me a youth delegate at a conference in Sussex, United Kingdom. So there I was able to meet with Andrea Pizziconi. There's a woman called Andrea Pizziconi. She's an entrepreneur, like social entrepreneur. Yeah, so I was able to, explain to her the challenges blind and physically challenged persons face in the university, like mobility challenges. Because, for instance, if I want to go to school, I'll have to look for someone that will take me there because I can't go myself. So I was able to talk to her, and she and I were designing a transportation architecture that will help disabled people, like mobility challenged people, to go, students to go to classrooms themselves. That's like creating probably buses in the university that will be dedicated to them and all. So yeah, that was me displaying another leadership quality there, because I was doing this to promote to what's the word? I was doing that to, contribute to the quality of life and experience of disabled students in Nigeria. So if you have any voluntary, if you've done any voluntary work, where volunteerism means you're not being paid, you're just trying to contribute to the good of the society, you want to make, you're just contributing, you're giving back to the society, like Gabriel mentioned. Yeah, so this is a place to mention about it. And if, for instance, you're the class rep in your university, or you've done anything at all, just think of something that has put you in a place of leadership that you have to lead. It doesn't even have to be in a university setting. It might be in your community, in your home, anywhere, in your church. You can talk about them. So just be coherent with your sentences. Let the transitioning be good. Don't just write jaga, 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 jaga. Like I said earlier, if you are not so good a writer and you have what it takes to win the scholarship, like you have all the things being required of, you can actually just make a draft and consult someone, probably a professional writer or a friend who is good at writing, to help you put the points together. It's going to really help. So that's that. Is there any other thing I want to add? I don't think so.
Oh, thank you so much, Demola, for that. Like you see, look at, if there's nobody who will read Demola's application that will not go for it. Demola was very specific. When I keep telling people, these people, to prove that you're not lying, if you actually do something, able to mention names, see Demola mentioning names in his essays, Demola mentioning places in his essays, mentioning year. So in your examples, be as specific as possible, so that even though you're following something, with them just reading this, everything is just flowing straight. And like, oh, this person, good. Just be as specific as possible. Is just what I would advise that you should do. And I want to talk about the area of the personal statement here. Some people like, it's not, you don't think that you have to have a first class before you apply for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. I know people who have won the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, they are not first class graduates. So if you know that maybe you fall between 3.5 or you don't have like a strong GP, don't discourage yourself. The advice is don't now go in the essay and I write about academics. You might even want, if you want to even write about academics, you can use that point to say, okay, maybe I had this kind of grade. Maybe you were facing sexual harassment from a lecturer. You can put that then to say, okay, because of that, I failed this course. Or maybe you are someone who have to like work while studying, so you could not meet up because you are the one providing for yourself. But then quickly transition to say, despite these challenges, I graduated. And because I don't want anybody to like go through these challenges, just like I see Demola take initiative to say, okay, so now I have like a fund, or I raise fund for those that cannot. You see, you just flow straight away. So always leverage on your strong points. Don't allow your excuses or disadvantages to take you away. Look at Demola, who is differently able to write and apply for this scholarship. I'm not much you. So there's no excuses, just tie your essays together. So we take question now. So Gabriel, somebody is asking here that did your respective institution require an interview before giving you a scholarship, and how many applications did you make to CSC? So yeah, Gabriel.
Well, I must state categorically that not all institutions require an interview. For you to, for them to give you an admission. Not all schools do that, but I think other Durham University, for instance, will not require an interview. But what they just need from you is just an application. You send in your application, and then you meet the application. You meet an admission requirement, and the major admission requirement here is the language test. So I must tell applicants, as much as you are applying for scholarship, please, you don't want a situation whereby you have already gotten a scholarship and you couldn't meet your admission requirements. You won't be given, because CSE can, okay, you've been given a scholarship, and at the end of the day you couldn't meet your admission requirements. I know 2 people who got the CSE scholarship but did not meet admission requirements, and they couldn't make it to the UK. So please make sure you meet admission requirements, and that answers the question about interview. So my Durham University doesn't do that, but I know others that do that. Then how many applications did you make to the CSE? Are you saying application like the one I got that particular year, or how many applications have I how many applications have I done over the years?
No. See, I think, Gabriel, what this person meant is that, with CSE, you can apply to as many universities as you want.
Okay.
So how many now for this last batch that you submitted? So how many universities did you apply
to? Life can be funny. Some cases where you've been talking about, having a strong GPA or no strong GPA. I with all humility, I have a first class. With all humility, and I've been applying. And people who don't even have the kind of GPA I had got the scholarship before me. So in this, with respect to this question, I'm going there now. I will tell you that this scholarship I got this year, I just applied just one school because I was even tired. Just this one school. I said it's either it comes or it goes. I don't care, because I was tired. I've been on this journey since after I finished my service. That was in 2018. So I've been applying since 2018. So this last window of this our batch now, the 2022 batch, I just looked at it. Man, I'm tired. I think I even submitted my application on the last day, as in, either it comes, it comes. So it was just Durham University I applied for. I also tell people that this application is even the weakest application I've even done with respect to others, because others I did so kind of very, very intense work. But in this case, that's why I say life is funny. So it's just one application. But I must add something. I forgot to add that with respect to volunteering, I feel everybody, it doesn't matter whether, I've volunteered for Kanu Heart Foundation, I volunteered for this. No, I think every Nigerian graduate have volunteered. And I will tell you why. I will tell you how. Every Nigerian graduate has volunteered. Your National Youth Service Corps is a volunteer job. That's just the truth. Forget the fact that the government is paying you 1 or 2 upkeep and the likes. It's a volunteer job. You're giving back to the society. It's service to your community. It's service to your country. So you worked as a local government official, thereabout, or you are a teacher or something like that. It is a volunteer job. That's why it's called service, National Youth Service. So that is an experience that, even though for any instance that you say, okay, you get to think that, oh, I've not really done any volunteering. Please put your National Youth Service program there. It's good. It is good you put it. Just a little advice also. I want to understand that, sometimes people say that the brain is a popular word. People say that the brain to write is different from the brain to read. I think the left brain is it to write or there, but I can't really say. But the brain to write is different from the brain to read. And I'll tell you how. This our head can be funny. You are in a system. You are in your computer or your phone or thereabouts. You typed. You've written something on your phone or thereabouts. You are typing, and to you have just done a fantastic job, brilliant job. To you, wow! I just finished my application. Please. That point in time where you finish your application, please don't read your work that time. Don't read that application that particular moment. I will tell you why. If you read your work as in immediately you're done with your application, you might just see little errors. Why? Because your brain has been busy. It has been busy trying to put ideas together, one or two things together. I always advise, please cover your laptop, if there's still time anyway, cover your laptop, take a nap or take a break, maybe a day later or hours later. Then you can now open your laptop to read. Then you will see, only then you will not see that, wow, did I just write this thing? You see some spelling errors, you see some punctuation errors and the likes. I'm just saying this because you don't want to submit an application. You don't want to submit an application that is full of errors. It can be, if you are the examiner, it shows that this person is not really serious. Some people have beautiful essays with bad, unforgivable errors. Probably spelling errors, probably grammatical errors and the likes. So take a nap, take a break, read up later, then you cannot proofread. That's the word, that's the advice. Proofread your work. Always proofread your work before the final submission. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gabriel, for that. Just to advise, I used to tell people, see, scholarship is a game of numbers. So Gabriel might be just lucky, and because he has been trying all this while, and he also has his content of his scholarship was also great. But with CSC, I will tell you, please take the chance, apply to as many universities as possible. It's better that you have SS where you do not determine, okay, I want to now go to this university. Then just apply to one. You never tell if you can get it or not. So I'll just say apply to as many as possible is the advice that I'll give. Then also know your university requirements. That's why it's easy for you to it's better for you to know earlier. But although for me, I submitted my application on the last day, but I will not also advise that you do the same because there might be issue with website. Why I did mine was that I felt ill within that period. So it was the last day I started getting myself and I just applied where I already had my content before grant. So start early. Then we started early. It's not so compulsory. I think after I submitted my application was when the CSA application was now when I went to submit admission to the University of Bristol, and I got admission, was it at the end of January or even February, I got my admission, and still yet I got the scholarship. So but there are some universities that they want you to submit even before the CSA application. So university have different application window. So it's always better you go to your university website, know their requirements, just as Gabriel was saying, people miss it because maybe they required English test or fee waiver, they could not pay, things like that. See, for me, Bristol wanted me to submit an English test, but I played around it. I told them that I was not going to submit an English test because I believe Nigeria is an English-speaking country. I mean, I've served in international community, I had my portfolio, I collected English proficiency from even my university. So I made my case to Bristol to say, I'm not taking an English test. And they were kind enough to waive it for me and offer me unconditional admission. So if you start early, make a case. If you don't want to take an English test, if you are granted, good and fine. If you are not granted, take the English test. Also with the issue of application fee too. So university might want you to pay application fee. If you don't have it, you can write to them to say, oh, I don't have the money, and if they're kind enough, they can also waive it for you. So just know what your university wants and the requirements and try to meet up with them or find a way to meet up with them. So I'll now give chance to Demola, because Demola, you are a master's scholar. Can you please tell us the nomination process, because it's different from the CSC process? With CSC, we apply straight to
that's the shared.
Yeah, with the shared scholarship, we're straight to CSE and university. So around masters, because most people think it's only through the government, because we've had this discussion. So how can people find nominating bodies to nominate them? And then I think there was also the issue of about keywords, things that are not predominant to our CSE scholarship. And then for studying in the UK, detailed plan, you also told me that, for us, we just have to write, because it's just one body. We just explain straight to talk about one university, but it's just like chipping in that part where you have to like write about 3 universities at once. So at this time, we'll take it off from Gabriel, who is the Commonwealth Scholar, and me, and leave it up for you to like just share some words before we wrap up, so that those who are thinking of masters can like understand this process. So Demola, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you. So like I mentioned earlier in the beginning, the Commonwealth Masters, which I won, is not really different from the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. The only difference there, like you mentioned now, is that part where you are asked to write a detailed proposal of your study. That's where you are supposed to write about your course and why you chose your university and what you intend to do when you get home and your dissertation topic. So there, because you're submitting an application to the CSE, where you've chosen just a particular university, there you write about 3 different universities, because like you said, it's like the chevening scholarship. In the beginning of the form, you choose 3 different universities and 3 courses, probably similar courses, or something like that. Then when you get to that point of the essay writing, you write about 3 different universities there. So that's the only difference. And so you might not have enough time like you would have had if it were to be a shared scholarship application. So, talk about your courses. Talk about your course rather, because you're talking about 3 universities. You want to quickly chip in why you selected those 3 universities and those 3 courses. You don't have, enough space to write, but you just have to be creative about the whole thing and know a way to write about it. And also there's a question where you're asked to write 3 keywords that best describe your proposed study. That best summarize 3 keywords that best summarize your proposed study. So for me, I'm doing masters in disability studies. And because what I'm really passionate about is driving inclusive education in Nigeria, disability inclusion, like where disabled people are included in the society, and promoting, like making sure their study materials of blind students, not just blind anyway, disabled students, those with students with disabilities. So we're talking about assistive technologies. There are some technologies that are useful, that are needed by disabled students to cope in universities, to cope in their life generally, to cope in life. One of them is what I'm using now to access my phone. That's why I'm on Zoom. So there I wrote about disability inclusion, inclusive education, and I think I mentioned mainstreaming or assistive technologies. Just 3 keywords about your study, like what you want to do, what you want to achieve, like what you're passionate about, why you want to study, or what is somehow embedded in your study, like your master's program, the key points that you are focused on in what the master's program offers. So for me, I'm talking about disability inclusion. You might talk about advocacy, for instance. Then I wrote inclusive education. I wrote assistive technologies also. So the master scholarship is actually closed. So if you're willing, if you are hoping to apply, and that'll be next year, you might keep preparing for it now. Like I said, it's actually totally similar. It's the same thing. It's 98% the same thing with the Commonwealth Share Scholarship, the same questions from top to bottom. Even the question where you're asked to write about your university and why you've chosen your course and why you want to study in the UK, the questions are the same thing too, exactly the same thing. But because when you started the application for the Masters Scholarship, you've chosen 3 different universities, you have to, reference, like write about those 3 universities in the answer of that particular essay, and not just one, like it is with the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. Yeah, so that's about that. And yeah, you're talking about nominating agencies. Yeah, for Commonwealth Shared, while you're going to apply and choose a particular university, submit the application to the CSE, the application you submitted to the CSE will automatically go to the school. Like the school is going to have the record of those who have chosen them in their CSE application. Why it's like that with Commonwealth Shared, it's not like that with Commonwealth Masters Scholarship, because when you're applying, you're going to choose a nominating agency, which for Nigerians is usually the Federal Scholarship Board in Abuja. So you're going to choose a nominating agency when you're applying, instead of you choosing a university. So when you submit the application, you keep checking online to know when, because they are going to conduct an interview in Abuja. You have to travel down to Abuja. So you keep checking online to know the dates that has been given out for the interview. And so you have to travel to Abuja. They will tell you what to bring with you when you're coming. So now, if you don't want to choose the Federal Scholarship Board, for instance, for a Kenyan, someone in Kenya, they have their own scholarship board, the National Scholarship Board as well. Why for we Nigerians, it is the Federal Scholarship Board. In Kenya, they have their own as well. In India, they have their own as well, their own federal, like National Scholarship Board. But apart from these scholarship boards in each country, there are other NGOs as well, non-profits, that the CSE are selected to nominate. So if you don't want to, choose the Federal Scholarship Board in Nigeria as your nominating agency, you can check the other NGOs, like other agencies that can nominate you. For instance, there's FAWE, that's Foundation of African Women in Education. That's an agency that you could select, but that's for women. That's for ladies probably who are working in the education sector. You can choose them. There's CDPF, Commonwealth Disabled People's Forum. That was what I chose. I actually didn't travel to Abuja. I chose CDPF as my own nominating agency. And one other thing with all these nominating agencies is that you're going to make an application to them as well. While for the Federal Scholarship Board, you have to travel to Abuja, go with some documents, they will interview you, then they might nominate you or they might not nominate you. For most of these FAWE, for instance, CDPF, there's AliExpress. So there's another one. There are like 8 or 9 different NGOs that can nominate you as well. So when you check, you can write to them or you can check online, they will tell you how to proceed with the application, because they're going to apply to them as well. So if they think you are good enough, your application is strong enough, they might nominate you. They will not be the one to nominate you to the Commonwealth Commission. So the Commonwealth will now review your application and either give you the award or not. So that's about that. I don't know if I'm clear enough.
Oh, thank you so much, Demola. And I want to say thank you to everybody today. Gabriel, Demola, for sparing your busy time. Like doing a master's here is so hectic, and sparing it to come and share your knowledge with applicants. Tushika was supposed to be here, but she's down with the flu, so she couldn't make it this morning. And so we wish everybody success in the application and do have a nice day. And then the recording will be on YouTube. So just subscribe to my YouTube channel. You'll find the video there. All right, take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.